Hello, welcome to another instalment of this parallel project training live stream series that Paul and I have been doing for the last couple of months. Rookie mistake from Paul there, leaving his phone on loud.
I'm not the only person. There was a government minister on PM the other day. His phone kept going, so I've just turned mine on mute. There you go then.
Unbelievably unprofessional.
Yeah.
So this is the sort of next instalment. We've talked about a lot to do with Box 7. We've talked about online exams. We've talked about project roles. We've talked about how to answer the PMQ exams with command verbs and whatnot. And over the course of the series, we've kind of gathered together some questions that we've been asked by some of the delegates and some people looking at booking onto the courses. So we thought we'd just run through some of those questions. I'm going to pose them to Paul. I'm going to pretend I'm a delegate. And Paul, you're going to answer them to the best of your ability. So let's get cracking. So the first question that we've had, coming, hopefully it pops up on the screen in a minute, is how do I differentiate between a portfolio and a program?
Hmm.
So Paul, how do I
Hmm.
differentiate between a portfolio and a program?
Yeah, I think I know why people struggle with that, because portfolios are quite remote from day-to-day projects. So they're both collections of multiple projects, effectively. Um, a program is usually linked at, I think, a one strategic objective. So all the projects have to work together. So a good example of that would be HS2 or Crossrail, choose a non-rail, the Olympics, um, COVID-19, I suppose, is a good program. You know, you've got lots and lots of things, but they've all got one common objective to
Mm-hmm.
address that, to deliver that. And that means that everybody has to work together. So take the Olympics. The people building the stadium have to talk to the people who are designing the transport, who are doing the media centre, because if you're going to build a 90,000 seater stadium or 125,000 seater stadium, it affects what the transport requirements are for the Olympic Park, or there might be a change program. You might be introducing some new IT, some new regulations, also changing the way an organization works culturally, and those three teams have to work together very closely. So that's what we mean by a program. What we don't mean is the Gantt chart. So a lot of people talk about being on program. They mean the Gantt chart or the bar chart. So that's the other confusion. But if you met the program director for HS2, it wouldn't be the person who manages the Gantt chart. It would be the person.
So the APM uses the word schedule for that, doesn't it?
They use the word schedule for that. But out there in the real world, people use program to mean both the program director and the schedule chart.
Right.
So to differentiate from a project, let's go down. A project is not like, it's usually multidisciplinary. So you've got, like, you think about cultural change and legal change and technical change. Those are highly different teams from different organizations. Yeah. Whereas a project's usually one discipline altogether, so you've got civil engineers and building people. As soon as you throw people like IT people into the mix, you're probably better off organising as a program,
Mm-hmm.
because the way they work, is the life cycle they follow, is very different. So you can think of a program as a sort of project, multiple projects with different life cycles. So what's a portfolio? A portfolio is like the collection of everything that an organization is doing. So take a whole organization, a big consulting organization, or a network rail type organization, or take a bank or something like that. They have a massive range of investments that they make, and they have to decide which projects and programs should we invest in. And they have loads and loads of them. And who will decide that? That'll be the board of directors. Should we be investing in smart energy, or should we be investing in, sustainability, or should we be investing in projects that, maintain our existing buildings? So, what areas should we, and how do they decide? It depends on their strategy. So it's a portfolio is how an organization implements its strategy.
So programs are kind of a collection of projects that might all have a common goal,
Yes,
whereas the
usually, yeah.
portfolio is more strategy and organization wide in terms of
Yeah,
what the strategy of the
yeah,
organization
yeah.
is.
Yeah, so often a portfolio is like 5 years. How many what projects are we going to do over the next 5 years?
Hmm.
What money do we want to borrow to invest in new facilities over the next 5 years?
So we've got a diagram here that kind of explains how organizations and portfolios and programs sit on top of business as usual.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
So
hopefully it'll pop up.
so at the top level, you got your corporate strategy, and then from your corporate strategy, you go down and you go right. What programs or what portfolio do I want to invest in? And then you say, well, there might be some standalone projects, that aren't linked to anything else. You can just
Mhm.
get one team to do it, and or there might be some programs where you've got to bring these multi-organizational teams together to deliver those
Okay.
those
Uh,
projects.
is business as usual included in portfolio management?
Some people say it is, and some people say it isn't.
What do the APM say it is?
Well, they used to say it was included.
Okay.
They used to say it was included because in your portfolio, say you're Tesco and you're trying to improve your sales, and you could do that through a whole program of refurbishing all your shops, but you also might do some things to retrain the staff in business as usual. So you might have a bit of a small training program in business, well, not small, but something that's part of business as usual that also helps you to achieve those organisational goals.
Right. Okay.
Or the NHS, you might be building a new hospital, which would be a program, but you might also be retraining your nurses, and that might be just part of business as usual. So
Right.
usually people say to achieve your portfolio objectives, you can use business as usual changes too. You don't have to invest in projects.
Hmm. Okay. Cool. So that was question one. Let's probably
Yeah.
move on to question two, which again I hope pops up on the screen in a minute. What legislative aspects do people need to know for the PMQ exam? Oh, I'm very big on that screen, aren't I?
So, what legislative aspects? So, this has changed with Box 7. So, we're going to talk about Box 7, I think, because we've only got one more Box 6 exam.
Hmm.
so,
Yeah.
so, the first area most people are really familiar with is health and safety. So most people out, unless you're an IT professional only, and you work in an office, most people who are involved in any sort of defence or construction know about health and safety. So that's about understanding your risks, understanding the legislation and regulations around health and safety. And these are
Hmm.
very, remember the APM PMQ is very broad. So it's very high level. So it's about doing a risk assessment, understanding what the risks are going to be. It's about training people and keeping records. It's about using PPE. I wonder, like 6 months ago, no one knew what PPE is,
No.
but now everybody does.
Well, I
Start
wonder if
using.
people just think PPE now just means rubber gloves and masks because that's all
That's
anybody's
true. That's
actually
true.
seen,
No,
isn't it?
PPE is any personal protective equipment that you might know. So it might be
Hard hats
hard
and
hats and rigger
steel cap
belts and
boots
anything
and hazmat
appropriate.
suits and
Yeah, that's right. So any PPE, it's about having reporting systems, so you record near misses, all that sort of stuff. Having health and safety plans and procedures in place.
let's have a
The
look at
most,
this picture. We've got a picture from the PMQ.
yeah. So and the next one is working conditions. So there, it's really about the HR aspects of HR regulations that apply. So here we've got things like the Working Time Directive. So you're only allowed to work up to 45 hours a week without signing a disclaimer. You've got things like holiday requirements. You've got things like non-discrimination clauses in people or legislation that you can't discriminate between people of different race, sex, or gender. Things like 2P. So if you move people from one organisation to another, they keep their employment rights. And so there's lots and lots of things that project managers need an awareness of. They're not going to be like an expert in it, are they? HR legislation, but they need to know that you can't that people have a right to paternity leave, that there are such things as grievance procedures, that you can't constructively dismiss someone, i.e. you can't put them in a position where they can't really do their job anymore because of the way you've behaved. You just got to treat people decently and reasonably. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And why is it important? Because sometimes project managers get too focused on that triangle: time, cost, and quality, and they forget people have employment rights. And I've seen several in my career, several situations where PMs have got to deep employment issues with members of staff that if they'd just been aware of what they were doing or consulted their HR colleagues in advance, they wouldn't have got into those difficulties. The next one is governance. So that's the regulations, like internal regulations. So the other regulations we've talked about are legislative regulations. So rules that apply from the legal range, outside. Governance are the rules that apply in an organisation. So things like gates you have, bid no bid meetings are quite often who can sign a contract, who can't sign a contract, who's allowed to authorise a purchase order, who can sign off a payment, uh, who can approve a project going from one stage to the next. So most organisations have rules about what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. Even if they're not written down, they're sort of like um, sort of like before you commit something on expenses, you usually check if it's
Yeah,
there's rules for what expenses you have, even
yeah.
down to that level. Rules like you've got to fill in a timesheet, they're all governance rules, and so those constrain what you do as an indie project manager, and you need to understand those rules, really work
And they're
within them.
kind of they're enforced by the organisation to make sure that projects are run in the right way and that people are
Yeah,
doing things correctly.
yeah, yeah. And then sustainability is another one. So, and that's about both trying to deliver the project in an environmentally sustainable way. So, using things like sustainable wood, sustainable resources, minimizing the power use, not using drinking water where we don't have to, using other water supplies for construction where we don't have to. Um, and then also about sustainability of what we build. You know what the I think it's the third or the fourth biggest emitter of CO2 is?
Concrete.
Yeah.
Do you know I know that?
Why? I
You've
told
told
you.
me that on every previous video, I think.
Sorry, it's the favorite fact.
Do you I'm reading a book at the moment which is quite interesting, which I'm getting a lot of stick for, which is called There's No Planet B,
Oh,
which is
very
by
good. Yeah,
Mike Berners-Lee, who's obviously the brother of Tim Berners-Lee.
yeah, yeah,
Talks about a lot of sustainability in there and renewable energy and how sustainability isn't going to happen unless people put a conscious effort towards it, and that has to come from governments, and it has to come from individuals, and it has to come from organisations. So that's going to become a much bigger part of legislation, I think,
yeah,
come
yeah.
in the
So
future.
it's not only sustainability in the project; it's sustainability in what we build.
Yeah.
That
Hmm.
So those are the four areas: risk management, working conditions, governance, and sustainability.
And most of
So
those are actually quite, sensible. Not sensible, but think of the right word. I don't mean obvious, but they're pretty. When you hear those words, you kind of know what you mean. You're
I've
going to have to worry about health
yeah,
and safety. You're going to have to worry about sustainability. You're going to have to know about governance.
yeah. I think what panics people is when you go Health and Safety in Work Act 1974 and the
Hmm.
Environmental Act 1990, and
Yeah.
they go, oh shit, I've got to learn all these
Yeah.
laws. But then, like people like me, because we do it all the time, I know that stuff. Yeah, and again,
Hmm.
it's outside your day to day experience, really. So I think that's why people panic a little bit about it.
Cool. So that's covered that. Let's move on to question three. Question three is coming to us, and that is surrounding the PPQ course. So it's we've had some developments on that in the last couple of months. Again, I'm looking quite big there. Um, so when will the PPQ be coming out, and what's it going to look like?
Should we just stand back and say what PPQ is?
Yeah, sure.
So we got this step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Step 1 is the PFQ, which is ideal for team members. Step 2 is the sort of first step for professional project managers, I think. So it gives them the knowledge. Step 3 is the PPQ we're talking about here, and step 4 is chartered. So you can think of the PPQ as the bridge between the knowledge that you get at the step 3 PMQ and chartered, which is step 4. So it's a prerequisite for chartered. It gives you the knowledge part, the competency part, technical knowledge part of chartered. So it's a bridge for between PMQ step 2 and step 4. Now it used to be 5 exams or 4 exams, and used to be quite difficult because there was multiple exams going on. But I think the APM has taken a bit of a refresh of that, and they're going to redesign the way that assessment is done to make it a bit more. Oh, you've got it on the screen. Very good.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a good time to get a plug of our
So if we scroll
website
down a bit,
and the step 4 process there.
So have us click on step 3. If you just open up the tab. Bit more streamlined and a bit easier.
Okay, and this is all coming basically because they've introduced chartership, isn't it? So PPQ kind of has to fall into line.
Yeah. So chartership increased the demand for PPQ, but the original scheme was a little bit too difficult for people to do. The content's the same, but the assessment is going to be more accessible. I wouldn't say it's going to be easier. I was just going to say it's going to be more accessible. So they've consulted on it. So we've input into the consultation. So that's why I'm being careful about what I say, because I can't tell you everything that I've said, because they've told me I can't tell anyone yet. So.
And it's a live stream. You won't know who to kill if you tell
Yeah, and this is going out to everybody. So, but what they have said publicly, which I can tell you, is that they've got a subscribe list on their website if you're interested, and they're talking about October for the launch, and we're currently actively creating the material for it. So
we're going to be ready to go in October when the APM
we hope
release
to
it.
Be ready to go as soon as it's available.
In fact, and that kind of completes our.
We'd like to be in the pilot.
That kind of completes our tree, doesn't it? If we go back to our website.
Guide, podcasts, book, e-learning approach that we've done for all the other courses, really. So we just need this lockdown to finish so we can start making more content, really. But that'll keep us busy in August and September. Yeah.
Cool. So that's those are the 3 questions we had. That's probably enough time. They were 20 minutes. So it's worth saying a lot of the stuff that we talked about with legislation and with the other question with programs and portfolios, that's come off of our PMQ slide deck. So if that's interested you and answered a lot of your questions there, so just having a look at our PMQ materials on our website. We have a distance learning course where you can go through the whole of the course. And Paul is actually one of the tutors on that, so you'll see his face a lot.
Good.
Cool. So that's the end of that one.
So we have to say like and subscribe, and please leave comments below. We've had at least, 40, 50 people watching these. So
yeah, over the course of about 5 weeks.
yeah, then we're going to live off the old advertising revenue. But if you have found them useful, this is the end of what we planned. But if you would like us to do more, then please do say, and we'll keep going if we've got more topics. And then, it did occur to me, Matt, if anyone wants to be a guest, like a project manager, come and tell us about their project. That might be really interesting. Come on and take us through what you've been doing. Would be really great to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of open for suggestions from now onwards. So, if anybody wants to see anything, let us know and we'll try and get it done. All right, Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Matt.
Cheers, bye.